And still with us is Jeremy Saltan, political advisor and director of English operations for the Yamina Party. Michael Kliener, president of the Likud Party Supreme Court and former Likud member of parliament. And Jeremy, the last time you were on the show, you spoke about what you called the incitement that's being directed against members of the so-called change bloc. You actually focused then on members of the more right-wing bloc of that group, Naftali Bennett, Ayelet Shaked, but now it also has spread to other members. One the head of the Meretz, or no, deputy head of the Meretz party, Tamar Zandberg, apparently forced to leave her home after threats to her and her child. You want to react to what we're seeing?
I do. You know, I think this is actually the main reason why we can't have a fifth election, Kalev. When we're in this situation where it's election after election, and one of the negative parts about an election is the fact that you go at each other in the political arena. And, you know, we're friends and we know the rules, but the people who are outside don't necessarily understand where those lines are. And after having 4 elections in, just, a couple years, and the possibility of having this 5th one, so much hate has just been spewed and it's just all over the place. And I'm just watching everything that's going on now. And again, it's just disgusting. I know that Michael agrees with me on this. It's unfortunate that I'm not hearing more from Likud MKs, from MKs in Smotrich's party, calling to just, take the flames and lower them a little bit. There's a certain responsibility we have as public figures to go out and say, we can disagree. It is a legitimate thing to oppose what we're trying to do here with this formation of a government. But at the same time, you have to know there are rules and there are things that are in bounds and there are things that are out of bounds.
Michael, how do you respond to people who say this atmosphere to them is, and you remember those days well, starting to resemble the period of the 1990s leading up to the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin?
No, I don't want to go into the 90s because I believe what the left is doing to the right is always unacceptable. If one remembers, just after the last election, those few members who went from right to right, actually Orly Levy, which was an independent party within the bloc of Labour Party, and when she came back to a natural place in the Likud, what attack?
I don't remember death threats on her, but let's keep it to now. Let's keep it to now.
What happens here is the fact that two right-wing parties, for their own reasons, decided to go with the left bloc, and I don't go now into it. As Jeremy said correctly, the people don't understand it, and the big portion, I don't want to say whether it's a majority or not a majority, because I don't look for disputes, but a big portion of people who voted for Yamina believe that they are cheated, that they cannot accept that their party...
That doesn't justify making...
coalition.
Does that justify calling someone a traitor or a danger to Israel, Michael?
But it's not only, the tragedy is not only be those extreme cases. I was... present to see a member of Knesset. I don't want to mention a name, but she's one of those two parties, and bereaved families were demonstrating at her home. She wasn't there, and the lady, the member of Knesset, was crying because it touched her. But those people were honest. Nobody was sending them. So there is I don't envy the people of Yamina and New Hope in these days.
But you don't think there's a line being crossed?
No, I don't. If somebody is doing something illegal, he must be treated by the law in the most extreme way, because we cannot tolerate such phenomena, never mind if it's from left to right or right to left.
Surely, though, the pictures of Bennett and the keffiyeh and the parallels to Arafat and the various things that we're seeing.
Unacceptable.
And of course, the stuff, the people who are taking a little bit too far outside of people's homes in terms of not just keeping distance, but getting in people's faces.
But at least you are lucky that you are hugged by the media now. The left-wing media is hugging you.
Okay, well now, okay, I wouldn't exaggerate
I don't feel any hug.
I don't know about that.
You don't like it.
I certainly wouldn't exaggerate that. But I'm going to go to some of the substance of what Michael says. There was a poll put out that showed a majority of voters who voted for Yamina. I think it was 61%, if I'm mistaken. mistaken, say that they would have preferred to go to a fifth election rather than Naftali Bennett joining this change government.
So he becomes prime minister.
So, you know, whatever. I did happen to see some WhatsApp messages going around of people saying they should identify as Yamina voters if there's a poll that they see so that they can answer some of these follow-up questions. I sort of feel based a lot of times. You can laugh.
I'm
sure that there are cases like that, but it's a minority. It's insignificant.
Sometimes when I'm looking outside, I don't really see your typical Yamina voter in a lot of these protests. And it sort of makes me sort of feel like we got 40 seats in the last election, just based on, you know, the type of stuff
you
that I'm seeing.
the crime minister group or the gold group demonstrating in favor?
No, that was, but Naftali Bennett never took that position.
All the people from Balfour all came to now.
But they were not members. But those were not Yamina voters.
No, they come and demonstrate as Yamina voters and say you do the right thing, that you go with the left.
And I'm not going to say that every person who voted Noam or voted, you know, for Ben Gvir represents Netanyahu or the Likud. You know, we represent Yamina. You know, Bennett is the head of the Yamina party. For sure, as prime minister, we're going to have a very, very large, you know, coalition of many different parties. But the people that we represent are our voters. And I can tell you, there is a dispute. There are people who voted for us who are disappointed. There are people who are very angry also. But there are also a lot of people who are very supportive of this. I think it's important to remember our two main campaign promises were that Naftali Bennett was running to be prime minister and that we would go ahead and prevent a fifth election. We did also make promises not to sit with Meretz and not to sit with the Arabs, but those were secondary promises that were the how. No, because they were how we were going to make Bennett prime minister of the election.
He said, never make Lapid the prime minister, even not in rotation, and never go with Ram.
I think there's a difference between what you say during the 3 months of the campaign season versus what you say in the last 2 days. We consistently said our two main campaign messages were Bennett is prime minister, avoid a fifth election. We're doing both of that. People ask us questions, how are you going to do that?
You will take the premiership with 10 seats or 15 seats, and you took it with 6.
Well, that wasn't necessarily a promise. But I have to say, Prime Minister Netanyahu has not stood by all of his commitments either, Michael, to be fair.
Yeah, he didn't stand for his commitment.
Okay, well, if he did, we wouldn't necessarily be going to elections.
I would say that's funny, right? He says he won't sit with Gantz, and then he makes Gantz prime minister in rotation. But when Bennett makes Lapid prime minister in rotation, then it's a completely different story, of course. That's...
So Bennett wants to take from Netanyahu.
Okay, I do want to ask you. Michael. I want to ask you briefly. Do you think the Likud has a realistic chance of preventing a vote if those signatures go today to the president? You have a week to peel away some of those members. Do you think there's a realistic chance for the Likud to do that, of that change block?
Look, they need only one.
Right, only one.
They need only one. So there is a chance, that it's not a certainty, but there is a reasonable chance.
And how confident are you that, for example, the Yamina party, which already did lose one member of its faction, to cut that margin down to 61 is going to be able to maintain hold on the other remaining seats?
I am confident that if Naftali Bennett signs that piece of paper, that means that he can deliver the votes. And that's why these last few things that are being discussed in the last few hours are very crucial and important. And that's also why I think, you know, as much as people might want to say it's a small thing, it's important we resolve this now to prevent the attempts by the Likud to go ahead and take those votes between now and whenever we vote.
All right. I do want to ask Jeremy Saltan and Michael Kliener to stay with us. We're going to have more politics. We're going to look at the vote for the presidency. We had a new president today. Also, still to come